In this unit, we're going to be looking at how people participate in the political process by looking at primarily the role of political parties, interest groups, and how these two groups play a role in the election process, as well as what role media plays in all of this mess. So keep in mind one thing while you're going through this unit. What role does money play? Because money plays a role for political parties, money plays a role for political interest groups, and as many of you know from the previous election, money plays a big role in the election process. A question that comes up on the HSA often is a question that wants to ask you, what's the difference between a political party and a political interest group? And both are groups of people working to help their members, help people who like their ideas. However, interest groups and political parties are a little bit different. Let's start with political parties first. The main goal of a political party is to get power. They're trying to get power in a government by winning elections. And in a democracy, in order to have power, you have to win votes and win elections. The two main political parties are the Democrats and Republicans, the donkeys and the elephants. However, there are parties called third parties, like the Green Party and the Constitution Party. We'll talk about them in a few minutes. Interest groups are trying to lobby. The goal of interest groups are trying to influence the government to help their cause. Interest groups might fight for civil rights, they might fight for gun rights, they might fight for the rights of senior citizens, like the AARP, the most powerful interest group in the United States, arguably the most powerful because they have so many members. And what interest groups primarily do is they primarily lobby. Lobbying is the art of persuasion, trying to get somebody to do something for you. And you think about, let's say you want to borrow your car from your parents, you might try to lobby your parents and persuade them to let you borrow the car. You might make arguments by saying, well, if you don't let me borrow the car, you're going to have to pick me up really late. You can try to guilt them into giving you the car. And all you're doing in that situation is lobbying. I bet you can come up with some real good examples of lobbying, better than mine. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at the main differences between the Democrats and Republicans. These differences of the two political parties are not always agreed upon throughout the country, but what I try to do is come up with general statements that show the difference between the two political parties. Let's start with the economy. When it comes to the economy, the Democrats promote that the government should be heavily involved in assisting and helping people. Now, the Republicans, they're not bad people. They just believe that people, individuals, should take care of themselves. Therefore, they don't like the government interfering with the economy. They would rather have people take care of themselves and have less taxes. When it comes down to social values, issues like gay marriage, abortion rights, things like that, very, very controversial issues, Democrats prefer that people choose their own values without the government telling them what to do, while Republicans tend, not always, but tend to promote the government promoting conservative values, old traditional ways. In most cases, the usual supporters of the Democrats are working class people, people that don't have as much money, that need more assistance from the government. Like I said, not always. And then Republicans usually get their support from the wealthy and middle class. And like I said for the 100th time, not always. These statements are not always true, though for the most part, this is a good way to remember Democrats versus Republicans. All right, we just talked about the two main parties in the United States, but there are other political parties, and these parties are referred to as third parties. There are many, many, many third parties. Third parties, what we mean, the definition, are any political party other than the two major political parties. So right now, you might have heard of maybe the Green Party or the Socialist Party or the Constitution Party or the Reform Party. These are all political parties. They're trying to win elections and gain power in government. But as of right now, they don't have very much power. They don't have much money. They don't have much support. Third parties do play a very important role in our political system. They might not always win elections, but they can take votes away from the major parties. In 2000, some people think that Al Gore would have become the president if more people would have voted for him instead of the more liberal candidate, Ralph Nader, who ran from the Green Party. This is controversial, especially if you're a supporter of the Green Party, but many Democrats think that Al Gore would have won if there was not a third-party candidate. The most important thing that third parties do is this idea of bringing attention to issues that usually get ignored. Going back over 150, 200 years ago, it was those third-party candidates that talked about slavery and that eventually was abolished. More recently, issues like global warming, people talk about that all the time, but 20, 30 years ago, global warming was seen as some radical, crazy idea. One of the obstacles of third party, obstacles meaning something that gets in the way that prevents you from winning, the most important obstacle is money. Money is important, as we'll talk about, for advertising and organizing and hiring good people to run a good campaign. You need lots of money to be successful in American politics. Third parties, because they don't have many supporters, they don't have much money. Another reason why third parties often lose is because states make it very, very hard for third parties to be on the voting ballot. Democrats and Republicans are always put on the voting ballot. But if you're a third party, you sometimes have to get people to sign a petition saying they want you on the ballot. That might not seem very fair, but you know what? That's some of the obstacles that third parties face. In our last slide, we're going to be looking at the campaign for votes. And we've already talked about the word campaign, but just to review it again, the campaign is when candidates are presenting their positions to voters, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to get as many votes as possible by persuading and lobbying citizens to vote for them. To run a good campaign, you have to have a bunch of requirements. I list 5 here: organization, a good strategy, positive public image, you have to have good media exposure. But the most important campaign requirement in 2009 has got to be money. In order to get good organization, in order to get media exposure, in order to have a brilliant strategy and have smart people working for you, you have to pay for it. And money is a very controversial topic in politics. Starting in the 1970s, the federal government limited how much people could give. Today, people can donate up to $2,000 to a candidate. That's called hard money because you give the money directly to a candidate. Recently, we've had some limitations on donations to political parties. In this slide, it says there's no donation limits when you give money directly to a political party. That's only at the national level. I'm sorry, that's only at the state level. At the national level, there are limits on how much money you can donate to political parties. A topic that comes up on the HSA a lot are political action committees. And political action committees, or PACs, as they're sometimes called, these are organizations that exist to collect money. And these organizations can only give up to $5,000 per candidate. They can raise lots and lots of money, but they can only give $5,000 per candidate. There's a lot more rules that go into PACs, but what you want to understand about funding campaigns is that people are limited in their campaign donations, and you want to think about why. What role could money play if we didn't limit it? What would happen if people could give unlimited amounts of money? What types of people would have power over our politicians? One of the most important roles for the media in the political process is the role of media in political campaigning. In a campaign, a candidate is trying to win votes by persuading people, by lobbying people, by trying to tell the American people why they should vote for me and not somebody else. One of the problems with the media in elections is that ads cost lots of money. Ads can be very, very expensive, primarily television ads, because you have to pay somebody to come up with an idea, you have to pay all the people to put the ad together, and then most importantly, you have to pay TV stations to run your ad. And depending upon the time of the day, depending upon the network or the city that you are running the ad in, that can cost lots of money. And so what often happens are that candidates have to spend lots and lots of time raising money, getting donations so they can run those very expensive ads. This ad on the right is a flyer for President Reagan, and this is a very famous ad he made. He made TV ads using this, but the concept of "Let's make America great again." You better believe that he had to spend lots of money paying people to come up with a slogan so powerful and so simple, but something that many people remembered when they went to the polls. Ronald Reagan won the presidency twice, and you better believe media played a big role in helping him win election in 1984 and 1980. The next thing we're going to be looking at is the media. And the media includes a ton of stuff. When you think about the media, you're thinking about television, internet, radio, and newspapers and magazines, which are almost extinct because they're not making as much money because we have internet providing free news and free information. The media is often given the nickname the fourth branch of government. Now, technically we have three branches, the legislative, executive, and judicial, but because the media is so powerful and because the media can play a big role in deciding what the main issues are of the day, the media is often called the fourth branch or the fourth estate. If the news is constantly talking about an issue like the economy or a war, people are going to be worried about it, and if people are worried about it, who are they going to be bugging? Well, in a democracy, the people are going to be bugging their elected officials, like congressmen, state representatives, and the president. So the media can play a really big role in the political process. In Unit 1, we learned about how in a democracy, people are the power. The concept of popular sovereignty once again comes up. And one of the ways that politicians, including the president, measure what people are thinking is because of the use of public opinion. Public opinion is the ideas, the attitudes that people have about the government and political issues. And the best way to find out about public opinion is by the use of polls or surveys, where you have people that get paid to ask small numbers of people around the country a series of questions, and these questions and answers often provide results that show what the public is thinking about controversial issues. I have a question here. It says, why do you think candidates and elected officials track public opinion polls so closely? What you want to keep in mind is, what's the goal of a politician? What do they have to do every 2 years or 4 years or 6 years? They have to win elections. And in order to win elections, you have to tell the people what they want to hear sometimes. You have to listen to people, because if you don't listen to people, are you going to be voted into office again? Chances are, no way.